Hey friends, you're watching BrainStormAcres. I'm Henry.
And I'm Irene.
We have a series of questions that we've been asked, so we figured it's time to go ahead and talk some about it. We have a lot of new viewers, we have a lot of old viewers, and some of these things we haven't really talked about.
So question number one, where did we grow up?
We both grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in Maine.
And I grew up on Long Island. New York.
Both semi-rural areas.
Mm-hmm. Back then. They paved it since then.
What kind of education do you have?
I have an undergraduate degree, and I also have a master's degree in anthropology with a specialization in archaeology. And 48 years experience as a tech writer.
My degree was in computer science and business administration, when computer science was a really hard course to go through. I have 44 years experience in the high-tech field, primarily working with semiconductor companies, chip companies.
Mm-hmm. Where did you get your skills?
I got my skills from a variety of places. I watched my father work, worked alongside him. I worked with people who grew trees as ornamentals and things like that, a bunch of gardeners. And then I had a whole series of odd jobs, each of which contributed a small amount to the skills I have.
Probably the oddest was working in New Mexico. And some of the things you did there, he learned to operate heavy equipment and all kinds of stuff there. That was actually critical in the long run. Let's see. I also watched my dad work. He used to do things like somebody would give him plywood that had 8 layers of paint on it, and we would strip all the paint off, and then he'd use them to build cabinets and things like that. I watched him build, today we want little storage containers for our nails and screws and stuff like that. He didn't, I don't know if you could even buy them then. Maybe you could buy metal ones. He would get plywood and build all these cabinets with these tiny little drawers in them, each drawer containing something different and then properly labeled, of course. So I got that sort of a background. My granddad was not super handy, but he could figure it out. My mom was a decent gardener. Nothing exceptional, mostly perennials, but I still got the gardening bug there. Lots of handcrafts, can you knit, can you sew, can you do that kind of stuff. And took every opportunity along the way to learn some new bizarre skill. Used to sew most of the kids' clothes, things like that, drapes, everything.
Now, we divided some skills up. So, for example, when we lived in Maine and I was working in Massachusetts, you got the opportunity to take the Shelter Institute class on home construction, which was hardcore engineering.
Right. I mean, there's actually, basic, I have to drag out my trig and stuff like that now, but how to figure out load-bearing walls and all that kind of stuff, deflection on wood, the whole 9 yards, plus all the joints and stuff that are used for post and beam construction and things like that.
And I got to live vicariously reading your notes and going through what you'd learned.
Right. Well, and we have a ton of books. People will say, you should build a tiny house. And I'm like, a tiny library? No, it wouldn't fit in there. We have thousands of books. When people ask us about various topics, we can probably just reach up onto the shelf and pull a book.
And they're all pretty much related to the things that we do, which is some of the handcrafts that we do, some of the ancient skills that we've revived and taught other people. And then it's all the modern stuff, like what's an electrical code look like now? What's a plumbing code look like now? Where have we lived?
Well, let's see.
First, we lived in
South Carolina.
And then?
New Mexico.
And then?
South Carolina.
And then?
Virginia.
And then?
California.
And then?
Texas.
And then?
Maine.
And then?
Massachusetts.
And then?
California.
And now?
Arizona.
We've lived around a lot of different places, which means we've seen a lot of different environments. We've dealt with a lot of soil conditions, a lot of unexpected things that you really would normally never run across unless you crossed a lot of different growing zones.
Right. And I used to garden a lot in New Mexico when we lived there. I mean, that was for dinner, if you know what I mean. Where did we meet?
We met slinging hash in the university dining room. There's not much room for pretense when you're armpit deep in stuff coming off of other student plates.
Right, scraping plates and putting the food into the garbage disposal, toss the plates in one spot, toss the utensils in another spot, trays go in another spot. It all gets washed with scalding hot water. Yeah, tons of fun.
Hot, sweaty, dirty work, and there really was no chance to hide who you were because that was all stripped away.
That's going to bring out the best in everybody.
Yeah, every once in a while, the worst. The last one. Well, this is the last one in this list.
Yes,
we have more that we'll be doing.
Lists, but...
How long have we been married, Irene?
We will be married 48 years this coming May.
Are you sure?
Positive. You told me. I didn't do the math. I just knew it was this coming May.
Yeah, we were married in 1974, which was a while ago. Mm-hmm. It was an interesting time to be getting married. And then we promptly got on an airplane and flew from South Carolina to New Mexico. Mm-hmm. So Irene spent a couple of weeks as a field surveyor on the back of a truck riding across the desert.
Yeah, surveying mining claims.
While I was busy getting ready for school because I took a class early in the morning so that I could make it to my work, which is out in the field, where I learned to do heavy equipment, did some welding, did some other metal work, did a lot of really manual trades.
Right, and he learned his heavy equipment there. I learned to drive a forklift years later when we lived in California, and I was working as a manager for a chai tea company and eventually general manager for the company. And we needed somebody besides the guys who worked there who could move stuff around. So I learned to drive a forklift. It's fun stuff. I love driving forklifts. I love the three-dimensionality of dealing with, tilts and the whole thing. That was a lot of fun. That was probably my favorite toy ever.
Well, that's all the questions for today. We'll just do some more and sprinkle them throughout our other shows. Hang around. We have lots more to talk about.
Yeah. We've got all kinds of crazy stuff up our sleeves.
You know what time it is?
It is time to pull my sleeve down and get on with it. So until next time, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because obviously we will be talking about a lot more stuff, doing a lot more stuff, and yeah, we'll be back. So until then, bye.
Keep brainstorming.
We obviously do.
It's helped us for 48 years.
Mm-hmm.